The British government vowed to send radioactive depleted uranium ammunition to Kiev in a bid to prolong the conflict in Ukraine. But what is depleted uranium, and why are experts and officials warning against it? DU is classified as hazardous waste that comes from the production of nuclear energy. It is thought to be less radioactive than natural uranium, but even in its weakened state, the substance is still classified as an extremely radioactive material. The commander of the Russian Armed Forces Radiation, Chemical and Biological Defense Forces, Lieutenant General Igor Krylov, warned that the use of uranium ammunition will cause irreparable harm to the health of the military and civilian population of Ukraine, stressing that Nato is still ready to supply them to Kiev. He disclosed that there are documents confirming that the West is well conscious of the negative consequences of using depleted uranium ammunition. Depleted uranium has been used for both military and civilian purposes for many years, including by the US Army and Allied forces during the Gulf War of 1991 and the invasion of Iraq in 2003, which led to birth defects and an increase in cancer rates among Iraqi citizens. Over 500 military bases were dotted by the US military throughout Iraq in the years that followed, many of them close to urban areas. In addition to the environmental harm caused by open burn pits on US bases, abandoned tanks and trucks, and the storage of weapons, including weapons made of depleted uranium, were found. Not only were DU weapons kept in Iraq, but they were also used there. According to a 2007 assessment by the United Nations Environment Programme, between 1,000 and 2,000 metric tons of DU were fired in Iraq. An increase in cancer cases and radiation-induced congenital malformation has been reported in Iraq. These cases are thought to be related to the use of depleted uranium in NATO partners' reckless fired munitions during the US invasion of Iraq. However, the US and the UK claim that depleted uranium and cancer have not been proven to be associated, despite the numbers. In a paper published in 2001, the World Health Organization stated that the military use of depleted uranium was expected to have detectable effects on environmental levels. It doesn't stop here. The organization has also asserted that uranium at the ground surface could build up and infiltrate the food chain. However, to this day, the Pentagon asserts the right to use DU. Based on estimations, coalition forces used around 181,000 depleted uranium shells during the 2003 to 2004 invasion in Basra, Baghdad, Karbala, Najaf, and Fallujah. For instance, about 15% of the children born in Fallujah suffer from congenital malformations, and as a result, around 5% of them die. It is evident that using and storing depleted uranium in Iraq violated the Convention on the Prohibition of the Military or any other hostile use of environmental modification techniques. Additionally, the use of DU is a component of an unlawful conflict that, as a whole, broke both the Kellogg-Barnard Pact and UN Charter. Thus, the use of DU is considered illegal in all of its parts. So, to sum it up, basically, what the US did during the invasion of Iraq and under the pretext of eliminating weapons of mass destruction, it introduced nuclear waste amounting to weapons of mass destruction. Now, another risk associated with the use of depleted uranium is that uranium, due to its extremely high atomic number, functions as a sort of amplifier for normal radiation. The reason DU is so easily absorbed by the body and spreads in the environment is that when munitions explode, the uranium burns at such a high temperature that it produces particles so small that they're essentially a gas. Despite mountains of proof demonstrating the cancer and birth defect-causing nature of depleted uranium weapons, the West continues to supply these shells. In response to the UK's announcement, Russian President Vladimir Putin warned that if the West used weapons with a nuclear component, his nation would be forced to react accordingly. As stated by a Russian official, the foreign weapons sent to Ukraine will trigger the possibility of a nuclear apocalypse closer to the world.